Thank you for coming to Nintendo and DeNA's joint press conference. We appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule to be here. My name is Sudo Miho, and I will be the MC for today. Today, we have the Director and President of Nintendo Company Limited, Mr. Iwata. And we also have President and CEO of DeNA Company Limited, Isao Moriyasu. These two will be giving you an introduction and also an explanation about today's announcement. Following that, we will have a Q&A session, and we will also have time for taking photographs. So we will be having a long session today, but I hope you can stay until the end. Thank you. Let's start with Mr. Iwata's presentation from Nintendo Company Limited.
Thank you for attending this briefing at such short notice. I am Iwata, President of Nintendo. Together with Mr. Moriyasu, President of DeNA, I would like to explain the business and capital alliance of the two companies that each company announced earlier today. I met Mr. Moriyasu for the first time in June 2010. Mr. Moriyasu first approached us with a proposal to use Nintendo IP in their mobile games, Mobage. He has been very passionate about the prospect of collaborating with Nintendo in some way, so we have continued our talks since then. At some point in the past, I realized that there would be great potential for global synergy by combining the efforts of the two companies as we are facing dynamic environmental changes. Since then, in addition to my discussions with Mr. Moriyasu, key persons from both companies have been discussing these possibilities. As a result, we have concluded that we will be able to create great synergies by forming a business alliance and leveraging the two companies' strengths. I think that for most of you here today, our alliance may have been unexpected. Therefore, I would first like to explain the background and the objectives for this business alliance with DeNA. As you know, Nintendo has been globally deploying its hardware-software integrated platform business since the debut of Nintendo Entertainment System or Family Computer System in 1983, and fortunately, Nintendo has become a well-known video game brand name throughout the world. On the other hand, in recent years, with the spread of the smart devices, we have increasingly heard a variety of opinions on the future of dedicated video game system business, and in particular, relatively pessimistic ones. We lost the balance of revenue and expenses as the era of the super strong yen occurred during the transition periods from Nintendo DS to Nintendo 3DS and from Wii to Wii U. And we were not able to make these transitions of the platforms as smoothly as we had expected. I understand that this situation has motivated people to suggest that dedicated video game systems too may be consumed by smart devices, since it has already been said to have consumed a variety of dedicated devices, such as digital music players, digital cameras, and car navigation systems. However, there is an obvious difference between Nintendo's dedicated video game systems and other dedicated devices, which are said to have been displaced by smart devices. Nintendo is the biggest game software provider for its dedicated video game hardware. Who is providing the applicable contents is a very important factor, But the pessimistic view on dedicated game systems neglects to acknowledge this difference. Last year, an unprecedented thing in the history of Japanese video game markets happened. 5 titles for Nintendo 3DS sold more than 2 million copies each in the latter 6-month period of 2014. As this record-breaking incident attests, video game software sales is progressing very well on dedicated video game hardware even after smart devices have become widespread in this country. Of course, the challenge of asking our consumers to purchase dedicated video game hardware has become harder now that smart devices have widely spread. However, we recognize that our business model of producing both video game hardware and software is effective even today. And we do not share this pessimistic view of the future for dedicated video game systems. When we further analyze the situation, where Nintendo's strength lies in, or where our consumers see the most value in, or are willing to pay money for, is our Nintendo IP, such as our software and characters, which we have been creating and nurturing them together with the history of home video game entertainment. In order to flexibly deal with the developments of the internet and social media, as well as the changes in the people's lifestyles, we will start strategic endeavors so that Nintendo can maximize the value of our IP that we have used primarily for our own dedicated game platforms. I announced Nintendo's management policy of more actively utilizing Nintendo IP and taking advantage of smart devices in our corporate management policy briefing back in January 2014. On the other hand, if we are to maximize the value of Nintendo IP while the competition to attract consumers' attention is fierce, we must deliver the value of Nintendo IP in a stress-free fashion to our consumers around the world who are living in varying environments. This is why Nintendo has decided to utilize smart devices aggressively. Very simply put, it is structurally the same as when Nintendo, which was founded 125 years ago when there were no televisions, started to aggressively take advantage of televisions as a communication channel. Now that smart devices have grown to become the window for so many people to personally connect with society, it would be a waste not to use these devices. Although this is something we intend to discuss more concretely in other opportunities, we are making progress in our efforts to maximize the value of Nintendo IP for our consumers via a variety of different communication methods, including licensing our IP to visual content and a range of other merchandising products. For more than 30 years now, Nintendo has been creating various IP for its game software, and as new iterations of the franchise are introduced, the value of each IP is strengthened. Today, there are many fans for each IP, and each one has different consumers with different lifestyles. Therefore, it is natural that the best way to communicate our IP to each consumer also differs. We choose the most appropriate method to try to maximize the number of people who encounter Nintendo IP, and as a result, we will further expand the gaming population. This is our basic strategy. Among the variety of different communication media, smart devices show outstanding strength when it comes to global use rate, contact frequency, and total contact time, even though each contact period is short. Of course, Nintendo will utilize smart devices as communication media for Nintendo IP. However, in addition, so that our consumers will be closely connected with them, we will deploy a game business which takes advantage of Nintendo IP. Quite a few of you must be wondering why Nintendo, which has never deviated from its cautious stance in regard to the possibility of deploying its game business on smart devices, has now changed its policy. Please note, however, that I was not dismissing the idea of making games for smart devices. As I stated at the January 2014 Corporate Management Policy Briefing, that a development team of Nintendo would create a smart device application and that I had not ruled out the possibility of making games. On the other hand, I really had to thoroughly consider how we would be able to grow the business by maintaining and nurturing the value of Nintendo IP and what conditions will make that happen, because the value of content can easily be deflated in the digital world, and because, especially on the smart devices, it is not easy to maintain the value of the content since the lifespan of each content trends to be very short as many are released and then replaced so quickly. We are making these announcements today because we are now able to showcase Nintendo's answer to these questions. Just looking at the fact that several applications that earn great profits are highly visible in the smart device game business, people in general appear to see it as an easy money market. The fact is, however, it is a highly competitive market, and only a handful of content providers have been able to show enduring results. If Nintendo cannot make it to that handful of winners, it does not make sense for us to be engaged in the software business on smart devices. Accordingly, we have been thinking that if we ever decided to do it, we would have to put ourselves in the best position to prosper. For many years, Nintendo has shown results as a company which produces products that satisfy consumers with their high quality at the time of the purchase. For the content on smart devices, on the other hand, to be appreciated by consumers, they must provide constantly ever-changing or ever-evolving content and feel fresh in addition to be high quality. This collaboration will create the best prospects for both DeNA and Nintendo. Just as I explained today, Nintendo's unique strength lies in its IP, which is appreciated by consumers on a global basis. DeNA's strength is its world-class web service construction and operating know-how. Nintendo and DeNA will jointly develop and operate video game applications for smart devices in global markets. With this alliance, new entertainment that utilizes Nintendo's IP will be provided globally via smart devices. Needless to say, now that we are challenging ourselves in this new business area, we hope that hundreds of millions of people will use and enjoy these products. As for which Nintendo IP will be used, we do not intend to make any exceptions. Potentially, any Nintendo IP could be used in our smart device software. On the other hand, as I just said, games on smart devices require ever-evolving services rather than just being a finished product. Therefore, combined effort will be necessary to operate them. People's attention will only be dispersed if we simply increase the number of the titles we simultaneously release, and we could not expect to expand our business. Accordingly, we will narrow down the titles for development and operation to some extent. Please also note that even if we use the same IP on our dedicated video game systems and smart devices, we will not port the titles for the former to the latter just as they are. There are significant differences in the controls, strengths, and weakness between the controllers of dedicated game systems and the touchscreens of smart devices. We have no intention at all to port existing game titles for dedicated game platforms to smart devices, because if we cannot provide our consumers with the best possible play experiences, it would just ruin the value of Nintendo's IP. And if I can talk a bit further about our game development plan, we will continue to do our best to develop dedicated game titles for our dedicated game hardware platforms, just as we have been doing. For smart devices, even in the case where we utilize identical IP, we will create completely new game software that will perfectly match the playstyle of smart devices. As for the details of the game applications for smart devices, we will make announcements on other occasions. Well, this is not something directly relating to the collaboration that we have announced today. Here is one thing I would like to mention to avoid any misunderstandings. Nintendo has decided to deploy its video game business on smart devices, but it is not because we have lost our passion or vision for the business of dedicated video game systems. On the contrary, because now that we have decided how we will make use of the smart devices, we have come to hold an even stronger passion and vision for the dedicated video game system business ever than before. Nintendo has made this decision because we have concluded that the approach of making use of smart devices is a rational way for us to encourage even more people around the world to recognize the great value of the wonderful game software available on our dedicated game systems. As proof that Nintendo maintains strong enthusiasm for the dedicated game system business, let me confirm that Nintendo is currently developing a dedicated game platform with a brand new concept under the development codename NX. It is too early to elaborate on the details of this project, but we hope to share more information with you next year. Smart devices have the widest reach and thus have the strongest potential for us to be able to connect with the largest number of consumers. Therefore, we aim to construct a bridge between smart devices and dedicated video game hardware that connects consumers to our dedicated video game systems. For the consumers who are connected with Nintendo through smart devices and interested in Nintendo's IP, we would like to provide even more premium gameplay experience on Nintendo's dedicated game platforms. By taking this approach, we firmly believe that doing business on smart devices will not shrink our dedicated video game system business, but will instead create new demand, as this broader reach will enable us to provide consumers around the world with more opportunities to experience the appeal of Nintendo IP, and instead of trying to seize each other's demand, dedicated video game systems and smart devices will benefit from the synergies created between them. Nintendo, together with DeNA, will jointly develop a new membership service which encompasses the existing Nintendo 3DS, Wii U, the new hardware with a brand new concept NX, and smart devices and PCs. And Nintendo will be the primary party to operate this new membership service. Unlike the Club Nintendo membership that Nintendo has been operating, the new membership service will include multiple devices and create a connection between Nintendo and each individual consumer, regardless of the device the consumer uses. This membership will form one of the core elements of the new Nintendo platform. The two companies have decided to collaborate because for the challenges we explained today, the strengths of both Nintendo and DeNA will create an extremely powerful combination. And now, I would like to ask Mr. Morias of DeNA to speak.
Hello, everybody. I am the president of DeNA. Thank you again for coming to this event. It was a very short notice, so I really appreciate you coming to this event. And let me talk about some of the background regarding this partnership from DeNA's perspective, and I would also like to talk about some of the objectives that we have. DeNA was formed in 1999, and since then we have launched many online services. In 2004, we shifted our focus to the mobile arena and accumulated world-class expertise in building and operating mobile services. And we have built that up over time. And what I mean by mobile internet know-how specifically has to do with being able to manage a massive amount of traffic. We have the know-how to build such an infrastructure, and we are also able to analyze how users are using our services to make very rapid changes. So we are very capable in operating a service like this. Also, one characteristic of mobile devices is that the screens are small, and our services are optimized for that. And our services are also very suitable for using our services within spare time. And I believe that this alliance with Nintendo will help us strengthen our already strong capabilities. Since 2006, we started our mobile game platform, mobile game, and our service has grown ever since. And in the past few years, there's been a huge transfer from feature phones to smartphones. And also, when you look at the type of games, there's been a big switch from browser to apps. And as these transitions happened, we found that it took us a little longer than what we had anticipated. But last year, we were able to create our first native app hit. And we are beginning to gain momentum in the app market. And we are getting a sense that we can compete in the app market. We have that sense very strongly now. However, at the same time, the app market is becoming more and more competitive all the time. On a daily basis, new games are launched. And yet, there is only a certain amount of time that users can spend on playing games. And because of that, it is becoming increasingly challenging to have users try out a game to see if they like it. And this trend is happening not only in Japan, but it's also a trend that we see globally. In order to get consumers to notice a game and actually take time to play it, a compelling differentiator is needed. And this differentiating factor needs to be very clear to our users. And the most apparent of all differentiators is, I believe, intellectual property, or IP. Nintendo probably has the most beloved game IP compared to any other company in the world. They have very powerful IP, and there is really no comparison. At DeNA, that's our understanding, and I'm sure many of you feel the same way. I believe teaming up with Nintendo is the best possible strategy to achieve growth in DeNA's core business of mobile gaming. We believe this will aid us greatly to take us to the next step. And I do really believe that this is the best possible option that we could have chosen. As Iwata-san mentioned earlier, it was June 2010 when we first met. We met several times after that, and last summer we began to talk specifically about our vision for collaborating. Since then, we had numerous meetings where I myself talked to many Nintendo members in person. And the more we talked, the stronger I believe that each company's strengths could complement each other. I started to wonder how huge of an impact we could make globally as one team. And with that idea in mind, our desire to join forces strengthened. Some of you may think that two companies who are seated here today are too different to collaborate. However, the actual opposite is true. We have been able to advance the alliance project with compassion and mutual respect for the other company's strengths. By forming a joint team consisting of Nintendo and DeNA members, I firmly believe that we will be able to create a major synergy and deliver compelling products with new value to our customers. I am certain about that. As Mr. Iwata explained earlier, our new business alliance has two components. One is to jointly develop and operate gaming apps that use Nintendo IP for smart devices. The other is to build together Nintendo's new online membership service. These are the two pillars that we will be working on together. And in addition to the business alliance, we also formed a capital alliance where both companies own each other's stocks. Under the alliance, both companies will share each other's unique know-how, and this shall allow a firm long-term relationship. And having a capital alliance like this will help us strengthen this relationship for the long term. And there are a few reasons why we are going to enter a capital alliance. And that has to do with the fact that this project is not a short-term project. It is something for the midterm to the long term. And additionally, we plan to seek out other opportunities not limited to today's announcements. And there will be other opportunities to talk about those new opportunities. So please have expectations about future developments between the two companies. And that is all I wanted to say from me. And in the end, I have one more comment that I have to make. I am a game fan, and I have been playing Nintendo games ever since I was a child. And I'm very much looking forward to creating games using Nintendo IP and make these games available and easy to play by all. And personally, I am very excited to see what this collaboration will generate. And also, to talk about some of the goals that we have as DeNA. Nintendo is a company that has been supported by offering games on dedicated video game systems. And as long as we will be working with this excellent company, we would like to create games that users will truly fall in love with on smart devices. And we want to become an excellent team. That's all from me. Thank you.
Lastly, from myself, generally speaking, an alliance is an approach that aims to realize certain objectives by leveraging the strengths of the other party in areas where each company could not easily succeed by itself. In that sense, there is a large significance these two companies with different strengths working together. And so that we can review this business alliance in the medium to long term, we decided to make the capital alliance as well. Lastly, allow me to add some final comments to express my aspirations for this alliance. First, many content providers who are succeeding on smart devices are depending on single hit titles. However, my goal here is, now that we are challenging ourselves with this endeavor by making use of Nintendo IP to produce multiple hit titles at an early stage after we start releasing our software on smart devices. Another, until now, when we said platform, it meant a specific video game device. Now that we are going to release games on smart devices and make use of globally widespread PCs and smart devices for a new membership service, we would like to offer more consumers with software that is suited to their tastes. In other words, we are challenging ourselves to redefine what Nintendo platform means. With this collaboration with DeNA, a partner with different strengths, we aim to achieve this goal as soon as possible. That ends today's presentation. Thank you very much. I would like to ask for questions. I would like to start the question and answer session. I will assign the personnel who can ask questions. So after identifying your name and your company name, please make the question. Unfortunately, we can only accept one question from one personnel. If there are any questions, please raise your hands. Third row from the front in the center.
すみません、G2C の橋本と申します。先ほどプラットフォームのところは任天堂さん主催で秋頃に
Regarding the new platform you mentioned around starting autumn,
任天堂 IP を使ったゲームタイトルというのはいつ頃
regarding the
どのような
Nintendo
形で出
IP
てそのタイ
utilizing
ミングについて
game,
教えてください。以上お願いします。
when will it be developed and who will be leading the development?
個々のゲームタイトルがどんなもので
Regarding the individual video game titles,
なのかという
when it
ことは
will be
具
launched,
体的には個々のタイトルの準備ができた段
we will
階で
be
順次
making the announcement when each of those
したいと思っています
games are ready.
少なくとも今年中に
At
全くアウト
least,
プットがないというような
however,
規模感では業務提
we
供
believe that there is no mean of collaboration if we can't launch anything
何らかのアウトプットを一緒
at least once or some sort of output within this
に
year.
ゲームタイトルごとに
Also, per game title, regarding the roles of each companies will differ depending on games.
任天堂が表に出た方が有利ということであれば
Of course, if it is an advantage when we go global that Nintendo should be
考えられる
shown on front, we will take that as a consideration.
その役割の分担によってどういう
But
伝え
in
方をす
the
るかということは
regarding the actual role
ぜひでお話し
will be depending on each games and applications. Do you have any
そうですね
supplements?
まず役割分担については
Yes, in terms of role division, I think we would like to emphasize on doing what we are good at.
まあフロントサイドのところ
In many cases, the front side will be handled by
我々そのサーバーサイド
Nintendo, and we may work on the server side or the backend and operations as well.
多くなると
So I think those types of scenarios will be common,
タイトルの
but at the same time, it really depends on the IP, and we'll have to look at what type of game depending on the IP, and we'll then decide who will do what. So a lot of it will depend on the IP title itself.
多くの方がお分かりだと思いますが念のため誤解のないように
To avoid misunderstandings,
フロントサイドというのは
regarding front side
スマートデバイスで実際に操作
is what the consumers will be
アプリ
actually facing, what they will be actually watching and playing on their smart devices. And Nintendo has many know-how regarding user interface, and we believe that we are more competitive in this field. However, regarding web service and on server side, or analysis on consumers' actions, we believe Nintendo has DeNA has much more knowledge. So regarding analysis regarding the usage data, we believe that DeNA has stronger strengths. So we believe that that kind of role difference will happen.
よろしいですか。はい、ありがとうございます。
Thank you
では
very much.
質問の方、失礼してください。最前列の右側のブロックの最前列の方へお願いいたします。
The right block, first row.
日本経済新聞の新田です。よろしくお願いします。今の発表の途中で岩田さんがですね
During the announcement, Mr. Iwata announced that Nintendo has, Mr. Iwata commented that Nintendo has been conservative regarding deployment on smart devices, and you have found some answers, but could you mention in detail what are those answers?
非常にシンプルなことなんです
First is, the first answer is very
ゲー
simple.
ムを両者に出さないということです
One is not releasing same games on both devices.
別のデバイスにあったゲームをスマートデバイスにシンプルに持っていくという事例は多かった
So there were many examples in the industry where games were simply ported to smart devices, but did that really port the excellent experience of the dedicated devices to smart devices was a question.
いただくお客様は増えるんですけれども
By doing so, there will be many consumers who experience the game, but that will not bring that level of same high
あまり
satisfaction.
満足できないということをお
And
伝えしているだけになって
We are just saying that
価値が
we are just providing games that does not have high level of satisfaction to the
ビジ
consumers.
ネスモデルの違いから来る価格帯の違い
And
が
also,
非常に
due to the
鮮明に
different business models, we had two different, very different price ranges. So those price ranges were another issue.
スマートデバイスとゲーム専用機というのはゲームができるという点では
So smart devices and video game devices looks very similar as a platform that can play video games, but they are actually very different, and we were able to clearly identify that these two are different.
なんでこんなに時間がかかるんだ
If you ask the question why it took so many years for Nintendo to figure that
それを
out,
クリアに私は発言 現している意見をあまり実はまだ読んだこともないですし、我々自身が実際に
So
ゲーム専用機の IP をスマートデバイスの上で展
But
開するときに、任天堂が言ってた
we
ら
have
こういう
never
こうすれば
mentioned anything clear. However,
プラスだなっていうふうな
when we are able
形で展
to
開をしている。
clearly be able to bring our games to smart
我々単独でやるより
devices
は有力なパートナーと
very
一緒に
well and be able to persuade the people, it will
とい
be
うこ
more
とで今回
better for us. However, we thought that it's beneficial to collaborate with a company that has strengths in this area. It will be more speedy.
考えを
So
ずっとこう
it took
考え続けていく
long years for us to consider how we can deploy video games on smart devices, and also at the same time in parallel we were discussing with DeNA on some sort of collaboration. So we believe that there was a destiny that the two timings matched.
マイクをお持ちします。お願いします。
コンテンツの消費でいきますと、いわゆる、ガチャっていう方法で
Regarding contents consumption, there is a system
これで
where consumers tend to use money through the gacha system
言われがちなこの方法に対して
and asking
岩田
consumers
さんはどのようにお考えを
spend more money using the car system. How do you think about that? When this game will utilize Nintendo's IP, we do not want our Nintendo's IP to be utilized in a manner that Nintendo can not accept. So in that sense, we would like to provide contents that could be safe for the consumers and they will be understandable to consumers. And I am not denying the free to start of type of games or charging type of gaming. However, there were many contents that are being criticized or not being notorious as too extreme as a business or game for children, and we do not want that kind of business. And regarding those areas, we are going to avoid that kind of output for collaboration.
では続けてご質問の方、お願いいたします。
Next question, please.
じゃあ前から3列目の女性の方へお願いいたします。
毎日新聞の横山と申します。岩田さんと森保さん。
I have a question for Mr. Iwata and Moriyasu. To be direct, are you saying that you can't do this by one company alone? And did Nintendo have a pretty strong sense of urgency to decide to do this together? I would like to ask the same question to both companies. And also from Moriyasu-san's company, you will be using Nintendo IP, and I believe you'll also continue to make your own games with your own IP. Can you talk about the different positioning for the two?
First, several media are commented or write stories that Nintendo is in a critical situation. However, I've never felt that way. However, the environment is changing and Nintendo needs to, not only Nintendo, but several kind of companies needs to catch up with that environmental changes. So I have that sense of urgency. So I'm not saying that we are being pressured and seized, and that's why we have made this decision. That is a complete misunderstanding. On the contrary, through the discussion with Mr. Moriyasu, when we talked for the first time seeking opportunities, as we meet again and again, we can share each other things that we didn't know at all. So for certain areas, we thought that, and also DeNA also commented that we can be at the backstage. We will support Nintendo for Nintendo. And we thought that from the speed-wise, and also the type of experience that we can propose to the consumers. We thought it will be more and attractive if we have that support from DeNA, and it will be a positive opportunity. So it is not a negative opportunity that we took, and of course, Nintendo has been receiving multiple proposals from other companies. However, from amongst those candidates, we have selected DeNA and select DeNA as our partner.
From our point of view, smart devices and smartphones, the app market for these devices is something that we have been focusing on. It is, in fact, our central core business, and we have been able to generate a hit in the app market, and we have a very strong sense that we will be successful in this area. But at the same time, in order to expand our business even further and even more quickly, the best option that came to us for generating growth was to form a partnership with a very strong partner, and Nintendo has extremely popular and powerful IP. And our thinking is that using this IP will help us grow even more as a company. So it made a lot of sense for us. And from our point of view, we're ecstatic. We're very happy that we were able to form this partnership. And to answer the second part of your question, yes, we will continue to make our original IP in addition to the new collaborative IP titles, and there will be a positioning difference. DeNA has always worked with many different types of companies, and we have used IP from other companies throughout our history. And having strong IP is very effective in drawing the attention of users. So yes, we will continue to develop various kinds of IP titles. And at the same time, we also have a strong desire to make original IP, and that has not changed, and we will work on that in parallel. There may be we will actually be making much more than 1 or 2 titles per year. We'll be making several games, and some of these will be our own IP titles that we do completely on our own, and some will be collaborative projects. Okay, so let's move on to the next question.
フリーランスの西田と申します。特に岩田さんにお伺いしたい。
I have a question specifically for Mr. Iwata. You will be offering Nintendo IP for these smart devices, and will this be an exclusive relationship and approach with DeNA? Also, the second point has to do with the business model. The smartphone business model is very different from the console business model, so are these going to be very different? Please give me your thoughts.
First, so we have made this announcement of the alliance. So we are not thinking of partnering with another company for the first title. I am confident that this collaboration will be very successful. However, that does not mean that the output of the business will be 100% successful for both of us. Nobody can guarantee that. So we cannot say that it will be a permanent exclusive deal. However, first, we would like to develop, collaborate, and operate with DeNA. Regarding the business model, for dedicated video game devices, basically it is a packaged finished goods, and smart devices are the type where experience starts free with free to start style, where the system is completely different. If that is the sense, if there are many consumers who accept the Nintendo's experience on the smart devices, if many consumers experience the Nintendo IP on the smart devices, finally there is a meaning for Nintendo to deploy business on smart devices. So we want to think how
天の弱な会社ですので、
we can have consumers to accept our IP.
うまくいくとされているから、
However, Nintendo is a company that wants to go on a different direction that is too boring.
それをど
So
うもっと改良できないか。
how we can enhance that experience, isn't there a new business model that we can deploy here, is an area that we would like to try with Mr. Moriyasu.
まだ言うのは早いかなと思って
So
言わなかったんですけど、もしその
I didn't mention this because this was too early, but if we can be able to create a new business model, it will be perfect. It will be fantastic.
続けて、ではこちらのそうですね、前から4列目の端の方へお願いいたします。
すみません、ウォール・ストリート・ジャーナルの望月と申します。よろしくお願いいたします。一点確認させていただきたいんですけれども、
One confirmation
というのは日本を含むのかということと、
regarding global scale, I think it will include Japan.
どこの市場を最初にするのかという
But
ターゲットはあるん
is
でしょ
there
う
a
か。
targeted country that you would like to target for the first country?
まずグローバル市場で日本を含まないというのは
Regarding the global market, we can't imagine to not have Japan here.
スマートデバイスが
When we say global market, it is a territory where it has a certain level of penetration of smart devices in that country.
ソフトが届けられる
If we can deliver software through download, is a very meaningful thing I'm doing a global business.
一方で
On the other hand,
同時にできることっていうのはどんな組織も人的あるいは
however, there is always restriction on what a company do considering resource, time and money and people. So
ことが本当にできるかどうか
if we can really deploy the business all around the world is a challenge for us from
そ
now.
れぞれのどこの地域でどんなふうに展開していくのかっていうことが
So regarding which country and where, we would like to make an announcement once it is confirmed. First, we wanted to confirm here that we have made this first step of collaborating into companies. So today,
まあ例えば
we do not have any details, also including which IP, which country, what kind of order you will follow or expand the global business, or which company will be upfront, etc., will be announced as soon as each is defined.
今年いっぱい全く何のお知らせもできないというので
However, we are not saying that we are going to remain silent for a while. We will make some sort of an additional announcement within this year.
今度は右側のブロックに行かせていただきます。では女性の方手を挙げていらっしゃいます。前から3列目、4列目でしょうか。お願いいたします。
東洋経済の前田と申します。ですね、岩田さんにお伺いしたいんですけど
I have a question for Mr. Iwata. Nintendo has always been selling packaged games and mostly geared for children. You have an image as a company of creating very safe products for children. And as you begin to offer smartphone games, how are you intending to maintain this impression of safety? And at the same time, there are certain countries that do not have too many console games, and for these areas, I think the smartphone platform will be very suitable, but do you have any sense of what countries will be fall into that category?
任天堂ブランドの中には
First, amongst the Nintendo brand,
子どもさんに安心して与えていただけるというような信頼が過去30年以上の間に
the trust that can be provided to children safely is an asset that Nintendo has been able to nurture the past 30 years. So this trust we have gained from our consumers, we would like to maintain that. We do not want to ruin that trust we have built with our consumers. So for the smart business model, we need additional creativity,
お話しいたしましたけれども、その
as I
こういうふう
explained.
にするとスマートデバイスでのビジネスは収益が上げやすいという今ある
So
業界の
how
常識って
we can make revenue out of smart devices
森保さんが今スマート
in
デ
the
バイスの
industry
世界もどんどん変化してるんですっておっしゃってい
is what is happening right now. And as Mr. Moriyasu commented, it is evolving constantly. So the business model that is operating very well currently is not permanent. It might end. So there were social games,
スマートデバイスのアプリがゲーム化されて、どんどん
and smart device apps became games and became more and more popular. There were many changes.
ゲーム専用機の世界で10年かけて起こったことが2年ぐらいでわーっとあっという間に
So what happened in a decade for the game-dedicated device system has happened in 2 years. There is some area that is we can explain in that manner. In that sense, business model constantly changes. What can be accepted and by the consumers changes constantly. So from that sense, to create something that can be safely be provided to children is an area that we would like to put value on, and that is an area we would like to place value in our collaboration as well. Regarding the second question, the emerging countries, there are countries with challenges, for example, cost issues on selling packaged goods or logistics on delivering our packaged goods.
スマートデバイスで実際に
And with
我々の
smart devices, if we can provide our IP, we will be able to resolve few of those questions. However, on the other hand, just with that, it will not resolve all of the challenges we have for emerging countries. Other than the smart devices, we think another creativity is required to be successful in emerging countries. And this is not a topic of our collaboration announcement today, so I will not go into details. However, in order to make people aware of Nintendo's IP, we believe that smart devices is popular amongst the on a global scale, so it will be very effective and meaningful for us to be able to communicate Nintendo's IP on the smart devices. On your question on a specific country, it is the same as the answer in my previous question regarding our direction on which countries in which order we will explain after it is defined.
ではこちらの、左手のブロックの後ろから2列目の方、後ろの方の方お願いいたします。
どうも本日はありがとうございます。エース経済研究所の安田と申します。岩田さんの
Thank you for taking my question. I have a question for Mr. Iwata. You talked about this, and I actually asked the question in the last earnings announcement. From a strategic point of view, what is the goal here? Why partner with DeNA? What is the strategic objective? That is what I want to hear about. And you also mentioned the NX, the next generation platform, and I'm curious why you made that announcement here today. And what are some of the challenges for you to achieve your objectives?
First, regarding the partnership with DeNA on the smart devices, we would like to have a mid and long-term, very close relationship. So there's a paper contract defining the conditions, but we didn't end there. We decided to hold a capital alliance, so we will have interest in both of our management policies and on a daily basis to have high priorities with each other. So for both us and Nintendo, so several of the strategical options we have, we would like to discuss them closely with each other, and we felt that there is value for the partnership with DeNA. So, and this discussion was not a proposal from a specific party. Through discussions, deep discussions we finalized to that solution that this capital alliance will be the best approach. Within today's announcement, the NX, our next generation platform, is not directly related to the collaboration. Then the question on why do we make this announcement when it's not directly related? That is because I wanted to communicate that Nintendo will be progressing with the video game dedicated devices with passion, and also we wanted to communicate on how to that the direction on communicating our Nintendo IP through smart devices has clarified. So providing premium contents on video game devices where we can persuade the consumers that a very well in-depth made video game with immersive experience, the kind of video game experience that will be loved by video game lovers, we wanted to make it clear that Nintendo will continue that as our core business. And without that explanation, we believe that many people will misunderstand that Nintendo made that announcement because they're pessimistic on the video game industry. So overall, regarding the video game population, you haven't changed your largest objective? Yes, that is correct. This is one of the slides I used. So, depending on each IP's characteristics, to be flexible on taking the steps and increase the number of people who will come in contact with Nintendo's IP and expand the gaming population, and it is all continuance. The new membership service, the smart device business, if we have more and more people come in contact with Nintendo IP, if they are satisfied with it and like it, and at the end, we will like to have the population increase of number of people who will play with Nintendo throughout their life. Nintendo recently announced that we will redefine entertainment. So we also explained that it is something that can enjoyingly improve people's quality of life. Anything can be entertainment. So we would like to widely define entertainment, such as Brain Age, where training your brain became a game, or during the Wii era, when swinging a Wii remote and play tennis became a game. So we would like to redefine entertainment in this manner.
右側のブロックの中央の列に後ろから3列目の方でしょうか。お願いいたします。
フリーランスの増本と申します。ユーザーのデータベースをですね、どちらが持っているか。
I have a question about who will be maintaining the user database and also who will be handling the monetization or transaction processing. And you mentioned that the Nintendo Club will be built together jointly, and if Mobage handles that portion, will that platform Nintendo users may be coming in contact with games that use a lot of gacha that is being offered by Mobage. So I'm interested about who will be managing and maintaining the user database.
User data, are you referring about the membership service or the data that we will be jointly developing or operating, the latter? Regarding the former, the membership service, although it will be jointly developed, the operation will be done by Nintendo, so Nintendo will be owning and managing all the data for the membership service. Regarding the latter, the operation will also be done jointly, so without access to that database, DeNA will not be able to work, so DeNA will be able to access the data. However, the objective of the access, we need to consider if that access to the data is useful for our business relationship, we need to make that decision. So we would like to avoid situation where the access to our database will impact in a negative manner.
Just as Mr. Iwata pointed out, for the games, we will be managing them together, and the data that we accumulate will not be used for a separate business without communicating this to each other. And if the customers allow for us to do this, and if they want us to use it in that way, we will do it, but the data will not be used in a certain way without any permission.
In that sense, we will gain understanding from each other, and also we will not have to have understanding with each other, and without that understanding and agreement, there will be no negative usage of data.
中央のブロックの前から2列目の方へお願いいたします。
すみません、フリーランスの小山と申します。今もお話ちらっとあったんですけれども。
This was mentioned earlier, but I have a question about the membership service. Specifically, what type of service is this going to become? Would it be something that can be used on multiple devices? Specifically, what is it going to look like? And also, what is your monetization system? I'd like to get a little more specifics about your membership service.
Regarding membership service, what I can share with you today is that it will be supported by multiple devices and it will bridge across the multiple devices. So the consumers who played on the smart devices will be led to dedicated video game devices, or if a gameplay on a certain device can be utilized on a different gaming device, or and also information on that it will start in fall and it will feature a royalty program that we had in Club Nintendo. And other than that, we need to concrete the framework of the overall service, and then we can make a more clear explanation.
I have a question for President Iwata. You probably won't be able to answer the first part of my question, but I'll ask it anyway. What is your expectation for revenue and profit coming out of this project? And also, this will be a question that's been asked before, but I also want to ask you why you're making this transition of direction right now, offering a smartphone game would diminish the value of Nintendo games and its platform, is what you have said before. But has there been any change in the environment that made you make this decision? Or if it wasn't something that has to do with the external environment, was there something that happened internally to Nintendo? If that is the case, I would have to say that you seem to be a bit lagging. Can you comment on that?
I thought only one questions were asked for one personnel, but I will answer both two questions. Regarding profit and revenue, there is nothing I can share today. So we will have a financial announcement, and we'll make an announcement on the next fiscal year, and within that forecast, we will like to implement our best anticipations at that announcement. And regarding why Nintendo has changed directions, for dedicated video game devices, the Nintendo IPs that were nurtured on video game devices to bring them to smart devices, we felt that they can win both on smart devices and video game devices, and we were finally able to come to a solution on that. And another is, and we thought that if we have a powerful partner such as DeNA, we will be able to avoid over-investing development resources onto areas that we are not well experienced in, and we will be able to increase awareness of Nintendo's IP, and that will be a very positive thing for our aspects to increase the number of people who are aware of our IP. And these are all connected, and that is why it has changed our direction. And I have been considering for a very long time. And I am very happy that I'm now able to share this with you today. And regarding your comment on that it seems lagging, but I think that comment will depend on our output, whether it was really lagging or not, whether it was really slow or not. I think the answer to that question can be only answered depending on our output. I believe that many encounter with many people, and also the discussions with other people, and also these factors happened in parallel. So I believe that the appropriate timing finally came, and I think I can prove that in a couple of years.
ちょうど中央の中央あたりにいらっしゃる黄色のネクタイでしょうか、締めていらっしゃる方、お願いいたします。
三菱 UFJ モルガンスタンレー証券村上でございます。今回協業でやられます2つのビジネスの
You will be creating two businesses through this collaboration, and I would like to get a little more details. What I mean by that is, let's say you generate a unit of 100 through this joint business. If that's the case, how do you plan to divide this 100 number? I presume it will depend on the case or situation, but if you can give me some hint about how you intend to divide the revenue and profit, that would be appreciated.
I think we should both answer this question. As I explained earlier, the role will differ per the game experience that we will provide. Generally, Nintendo owns the IP, and the application that will actually move on the smart device and planning, and also the planning will be done by Nintendo. However, the server development and the user analysis and daily operation, to operate that in a very quick manner, DeNA is very talented. So, other than the IP area, I think the general role will be just half each other, half and half. However, it will really depend on each title's and depending on the investment required by each companies, and to find a fair return split to each of the companies. So it is not dependent on the scale of the companies, but depending on the resource that was input in that development. I think that is the fair approach.
When it comes to the game business, and especially for smart devices, in making these games and operating these games, when you look at the whole picture, and when you think about how we divide our share, that'll depend on the game and how much effort we put into. And also, as mentioned, this will depend on the type of game that is chosen for each project. And from DeNA's point of view, we will look at the gross number we'll have to see how big one game can generate, how much one game can generate. And as mentioned earlier, what we are aiming to do is to create multiple hit titles, and once we are able to do that, this should be able to generate a large amount of revenue for both parties.
It is true. It is true that we do not want to spend time on discussing what revenue split we should have. We would like to discuss more time on what kind of projects or challenges we can do to bring many consumers to our smart devices approaches. And I think our answers will not directly answer to the analyst's questions, but our primary thinking is placed on how to increase the number of consumers.
ではそのお隣の女性の方へそのままお願いいたします。
JP モルガン証券の森と申します。ご説明ありがとうございました。岩田社長に
I have a question for President Iwata. You have explained many things to us today, and I appreciate that. And I want to confirm with you once again why you have chosen DeNA as your partner. As you also mentioned, you have received proposals from many different companies. And what made DeNA different compared to other companies? Looking at this from the outside, when you look at the total app game market, there are other companies who have done better than DeNA with apps, and that's my honest view. So considering that as well, why did you choose DeNA? Thank you.
The passion of DeNA, their passion to want to work with Nintendo. Many companies knocks our door, but many people are doubtful whether Nintendo will really open the door. However, DeNA continue to seriously knock the door. And another point is so we do not put much emphasis on whether our partnering company has strengths in what we are good in, but we are putting emphasis on evaluating whether that company has strengths in an area that we are not talented in or we have weakness in. So the language might be extreme, but Mr. Moriyasu said that we can be on the backstage, we will support you. So for companies who has established some success, they want to be upfront and show their name. However, Mr. Moriyasu said that they can be backstage. So that increased the number of strategic options that we can take. For example, there were many options if we are to co-develop and operate a smart device application with a different company, but the partnership to co-develop a membership service is not an area that DeNA can benefit. However, DeNA said they are willing to cooperate in that business as well, and also they will be dispatching the ACE development resource for those development. And that is how much seriousness that they had towards collaborating with Nintendo and how much they put value on Nintendo.
Hearing that question, it almost sounded like we're a company that has no track record, but we are very good at certain things, and we have been very successful as well. Of course, if we compare ourselves with other companies, there are differences. But we really thought that we can be a good contributor, and I think it's a partnership that makes a lot of sense to us. We're running out of time, so this is going to be our final question.
真ん中の中央のスーツを着ていらっしゃる方へ、端の方にお座りの方ですね、お願いいたします。はい。その1個前の方、お願いいたします。
ご説明どうもありがとうございました。野村証券
Thank you for your explanation.
森安社長に一点質問
I have a
させていただき
question
ます。
for President Moriyasu. From Nintendo's point of view, they will be from your point of view, it'll be a 1% stakeholder, and from your point of view, it will be a very important partner, and they will become a major shareholder for you as well. And when you consider that, is that going to impact how you develop games in the future, especially games using IP? So what is your point of view on that? How is this relationship going to affect how you create IP games? Yes, from DeNA's point of view, Nintendo will own 10% of our shares, which will make them the number 2 shareholder. So, of course, they are going to have a large influence on us. At the same time, it's more than a simple financial relationship. They will be shareholders, but it's also more about our business partnership. And in addition to the deal that we're announcing here today, we are going to explore other avenues together as well. So again, from DeNA's point of view, we believe this relationship will add value to our company, and I think they'll be an excellent shareholder. And to be a little more specific, as we continue to build games for the smartphone, which has already been our core business, and we are very good at certain things, but still we are not quite as good compared to certain companies in the marketplace. And by forming this partnership, we believe that we will be able to use our know-how and also use our creativity, but also gain those things, gain new ideas from Nintendo as well. I wouldn't say that we want to steal ideas, but I think we can gain from each other's relationship. Yes, I think we have a lot to teach to each other. Yes, that's right, not stealing, learning. So that is what I mean. Yes, they will be a 10% shareholder, and from DeNA's perspective, they will be a very meaningful shareholder, and I believe we can both add value to each other's companies. Thank you very much. That is all that we have time for today, so thank you again for your questions, and we would transition to the photo session. So we would have the